Hello and welcome to our People to People Group 2025 HR Market Update and Priorities. I am Leanne Lazarus from the Specialist Recruitment Manager here in Brisbane, Queensland for the People to People team. On today's session, we are going to be focusing on what key trends are impacting HR in 2025. We are joined today by Adeline Rooney, Chief People Officer at Cancer Council Queensland, and Samantha McCall, Recruitment Consultant at New Zealand Health Group, to unpack the key trends shaping the HR landscape across Australia and New Zealand in 2025. How are employers navigating uncertainty? Are HR teams taking a new approach in 2025? Is technology a game changer or a tool? And what trends will redefine the future of people strategy? But first, let's kick off things with a look at what's really happening in the HR recruitment market right now. Let's start with what's shaping the HR priorities in 2025 across Australia and New Zealand. The big focus is improving the employee experience. About 73% of HR leaders are prioritising this, along with developing leadership and supporting learning and development. Flexibility, leadership style, and work-life balance are still top of mind for job seekers. While AI is starting to play a role, especially within recruitment and training, nearly half of HR teams say it hasn't been an impact just yet, even though half of them are already investing in it. When it comes to recruitment, the main challenge is replacing outgoing staff. That's the number one driver, followed by business growth. To stay competitive, 63% of organisations are raising salaries to fill roles, though most are not offering counteroffers anymore. The good news is that staff retention or staff turnover seems to be improving. Around 49% of HR teams say turnover is either better or significantly better compared to last year. There are also been a strong push around well-being and flexibility. A lot of companies, 81% in fact, are offering employee assistance programs, and almost half are helping their employees with healthcare costs. Flexible working is now the norm, which most organizations offer flexible working hours and remote work options. These benefits are becoming essential, not just a nice to have. But even with all the progress, HR teams are still stretched thin. Nearly half of HR professionals say they are under-resourced. So while the focus on leadership, development, and AI is important, organizations will need to keep investing in their HR teams if they want the long-term success. All the insights we've just shared and the conversations that we are about to have are drawn directly from our 2025 Employment and Salary Trends report. This comprehensive report is built of thousands of survey responses from job seekers and employers across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. It looks at the latest workplace hiring and job seeker trends and can help you and your business make more informed decisions. If you would like a deeper dive into salaries, benefits, and workplace trends across your market, you can request a copy by scanning the QR code on the screen at any point during this live stream, or click the link below in the comments. To break down more about what is happening in the market across Australia and New Zealand, we are joined first today by Adeline Rooney, Chief People Officer at Cancer Council Queensland. Welcome, Adeline. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, in terms of the market, what have you and your team experienced over the last 12 months? Have you seen any changes in turnover or retention strategies for your team that are different to the previous years that we've seen?
Look, I'm really pleased to say we've seen a fairly significant reduction in turnover in the last 12 months in our organisation and in our team. I think probably having to really invest in the right retention strategies has been fundamental to this, particularly around upskilling people around the basic management skills. So that's largely because we've had so much legal and compliance requirements and changes in the sector. So, giving managers and giving HR teams the confidence so that they're equipped to manage those day-to-day people matters has been really key to understanding where those accountabilities sit. So that's been a really big focus for us. And I think if people are feeling more confident in what they're doing, they tend to feel more supported in the workplace as well with the types of things we're bringing in. I think it also has allowed us to upskill people so that we're providing more opportunities potentially for sort of internal mobility and that investment in sort of career development, which I think historically has always been important, but I think it's becoming even more important. And for us, I think the other big part is making sure that we're really focusing on the employee experience. It's certainly not to say we've got everything perfect. It's a long way to go, and it's iterative, as you well know. But looking at how we make our policies, processes, etc., far more accessible for not just our workforce, but also our staff. I mean, our HR staff as well. So that employee's key experience has been really key. And I think overall, there's been a real focus on total rewards as well as that base salary. So creating those really good frameworks and robust frameworks around things like flexible work, well-being programs has been really key for us. And I think that's been quite a significant shift in terms of the things that are really important to people in my experience.
Fantastic. And what have been the biggest HR opportunities or challenges for your team over the past year?
Oh, look, I think there's no doubt there's generational shifts in the workforce and those workforce demographic shifts. So that really challenges us to rethink how we're engaging people and how we're diversifying. I guess it's not a one size fits all, in terms of our approach, in terms of our strategy. There's no doubt that, employee experience can be enhanced by technology. So we're really needing to upgrade our systems and our processes, etc., just to really start getting ready to really embrace the technology that's coming to improve employee experience. So trying to remove things even at the base level of removing those sort of manual, high touch kind of processes so that we're freed up to do a bit more value add activity. So for us, it's been really important to be able to demonstrate the value of HR in terms of a quantifiable return and to be able to actually measure business impact, not just HR deliverables. I think that's been a real thing for us. And I think when you can demonstrate those things, you get that sort of greater investment in those HR teams. For us, there's also been a really big focus on skills-based hiring. So where possible, I think qualifications, in certain areas will become less and less important. So it can open up more diverse talent pools for us. That's been a really big refocus for us in how we actually position our roles. And like I said, I think the biggest challenge really has been the complexity of the legal and compliance ever-changing landscape, and particularly in relation to psychosocial safety and our positive duty in that area. HR teams in particular, often, safety functions sit either within HR teams or on the side of HR teams. We're really having to rethink our structure of those teams and look at org design, because to appropriately support people who are experiencing some of those challenges, we really need to think through how we triage those things, how the right people in our teams are aware of the right things at the right time so that we can appropriately support people back to work. So I think there's a big org redesign component in HR as well, because of those overlapping responsibilities between functions that were probably historically quite separate. So those have been big things for us to consider.
Amazing. And in terms of salaries, how have you seen salary expectations and pay rise forecasts shift in 2025 across Australia for you?
Look, in my experience this year, I think salary expectations are rising, sometimes modestly, sometimes more. I think workers are seeing increases just above inflation. We've seen inflationary levels, and we've seen that minimum wage as of yesterday, the Fair Work Commission handed down 3.5% increase, which is effective from July here in Australia. So, but I think overall, with the cost of living pressures still biting, especially around affording housing affordability in Australia, groceries, energy, all those other life pressures, I suppose, and costs, I think workers are generally hoping for a lot more. But apart from that increase in, that moderate expectation in increase in salary, I think there's also growing expectations that employers also offer more total rewards. So they focus on benefits, support financial well-being, flexibility, and career growth.
Absolutely agree with you there. Thank you very much, Adeline. So thank you very much for those insights. And now I'd like to shift gears slightly and bring in our second guest, which is Samantha McCall, who is a recruitment consultant at New Zealand Health Group, and she can give us some insights from New Zealand. So thank you very much for joining us today, Samantha. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So I'm going to go through the same questions, and I'll start with the first one, which is, what have you and your team experienced over the last 12 months? Have you seen any changes in terms of turnover or retention strategies for your team that are different to what you've done in previous years?
Yeah, very similar to actually what Addie was talking about. So we have noticed we've managed to retain our staff really well across our HR, recruitment, wider people and culture team within NZ Health Group, but also across the wider business as well. I'm not sure if that's reflection on the current sort of job market in New Zealand. It's quite dire, and people are really wanting that job stability, security, and holding on to their jobs. But also we've shifted our change into investing into our people and offering more of the in-house upskilling and mentorships and things like that to keep them within the business for long-term career growth.
Fantastic. And in terms of the HR team, what have been some of your biggest HR opportunities or challenges that you've seen in the past 12 months?
Well, definitely with some of the challenges, is there's been a few sort of legislation changes. We've had the pay equity claims law that's passed recently, so that's kind of been one of the more biggest things that we have had to deal with in terms of our community support workforce, and also just in general from a recruitment perspective, the challenges for recruitment is there's still definitely the quantity over quality in terms of candidates that are coming through, and also just with immigration laws and that consistently changing and trying to keep people in jobs that are on visas and things like that. So we've noticed a lot of different sort of challenges across all facets, I guess, of ever-changing government and industry changes. So it's been quite a fun time in terms of keeping us busy, keeping us occupied. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing is still that, especially in our regional areas in New Zealand, is finding good talent, attracting it and retaining it.
Okay, fantastic. And in terms of salary expectations, have you seen salary expectations and pay rise forecast shift in 2025 for New Zealand?
Yeah, so most of the businesses across New Zealand are coming into that financial year change. So we are expecting to see that sort of rise in terms of what candidates are looking for, what is on offer. It has been pretty stable sort of the last 12 months, as the biggest thing for candidates has been that job security. They want to know that they don't have to go through consistent restructures, and they know where their next paycheck's coming from, and they've got families to support and things like that. But in saying that, the living wage in New Zealand is, consistently going up as well, and people do have bills to pay. They've got food to provide for their families and things like that. So it is still quite a key factor for candidates when they are looking for jobs, that was still seeing those negotiations and things like that going through.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your insights in terms of the New Zealand market. Now, I'd like to bring both of you back and be able to get a bit more of a broader view with some different perspectives in terms of the markets. So I'll start off with you, Adeline. Our report shows that 73% of HR leaders are prioritising employee experience. 67% said leadership development and 54% said L&D. How do these priorities reflect on your own strategy to attract and retain talent?
Yeah, look, I think it's fairly reflective of what we're experiencing as well, Leanne. I think that employee experience component has become really, really important. Traditionally, I think, years ago we would see that, people strategy sort of just solely being developed, but now we're really looking at people and well-being strategy to focus on well-being and all those other benefits like flexibility, purpose-driven work really becoming central to sort of HR strategy. And now if we want to retain and attract the best people, and I think from an L&D perspective as well, we've really been investing in that leadership and that management skills, things like mentoring and peer-to-peer connections, particularly with the flexible work becoming more and more prevalent. So, those are really foundational pillars for retention, for internal mobility, so that we can drive to more personalized experiences, particularly from an L&D perspective, down the track as well. So, I think with technology advancing the way it is, we're really seeing that true shift from that more transactional activity, which can be, potentially, augmented, I suppose. But we're looking to really look at that shift to transformative people leadership and just that more tech-based solutions for HR.
Fantastic. And then Samantha, in terms of the New Zealand market, how have you found that reflecting in your strategy?
Very similar. So we also do want to put that emphasis on the ongoing career development, upskilling our current workforce. We do think that is, very important, and it's what candidates are looking for as well. And working together with employees on finding out what it is that they want, how we can help them get there, and then providing those tools for them. We do also have a really sort of robust mentorship program that we offer in-house as well, working with key leaders within the business that people volunteer to do. We do encourage it for those as well that are seeking those career development opportunities. And then we also offer some different sort of leadership courses and ongoing online courses and things as well within the company.
Fantastic. So with your career development and training being the number one priority for employees and job seekers in 2025, how have you updated your approach to L&D in the last 12 months? Adeline, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Look, I think we've really had to focus on career development as well as that sort of performance planning and looking at, where people want to go with their careers and how we can support that as well, because it's really so tightly integrated, that succession planning and that internal mobility, particularly when you're competing for talent in the market. So I think for us, a really big part of it is really to look at how we can partner with organizations to offer things like micro-credentialing and bite-sized learning opportunities, which is quite a shift from, I suppose, the traditional way of delivering training programs. So we want to do, bite-sized modules to reinforce learning over time rather than sort of one-offs. I'd love to get to the point when I see what's possible out there with technology to offer those real, true, personalized solutions, using AI to tailor paths based on role, on performance, on career goals. And so, we've got a long way to go, of course, in maturing our system so we can get to that point. But I think that that's certainly on our HR roadmap and map in our organizational horizon to make sure that we're leveraging technology to really drive that training development and reskilling, because people will need to reskill for roles that simply don't exist now. And so I think HR plays a fundamental role in driving that within organizations.
Absolutely. And I think the good thing is I don't think you're alone in that process either. So
yeah, Samantha, it's a challenge for a lot of organizations for sure. Yeah,
it is. It's a working roadmap, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Samantha, what about you from a New Zealand perspective?
Yeah, so working very closely with our employees on where they see their careers going and what we can do to support. It's not a one size fits all. Each candidate or each employee has a different sort of learning style, and everyone has different career goals. So it's just kind of working with them, finding out what it is that drives them, where they see themselves, and how can we help them to get there. So we are looking at updating a lot of our different softwares and programs and things, doing a lot of upskilling with that, whether the same as what Addie was saying, whether it's sort of that bite-sized learning, whether it's sort of long-term career progression as well. Within our healthcare sector, we do a lot of our in-house certificates and things like that for our support workforce and things like that, because the higher the qualification they can get, the more money they can get as well, but also they've got a wider skill set under their belt, and they can do all kinds of different cares and things for our clients, which is amazing. That's what we want. But then for our internal staff as well, it's just managing, working with other teams as well, doing that almost sort of crossing over into different parts of the business that we can utilize their skill set and bring it across to, whether it's HR, whether it's our customer service team and things like that.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. So in terms of the market, what skills do you think are critical for both junior and senior HR professionals to thrive in 2025 and beyond? Adeline, I'll hand it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Leanne. Look, I think for junior HR professionals, there's no doubt that digital literacy is fundamental. And, we can talk about, using the use of AI tools, understanding what a contemporary approach looks like is really key. And, I think no matter what, that communication piece and that ability to work with a range of people and stakeholder management is fundamental to any role really in our space. But also data interpretation and reporting becomes really key, I think, in those junior roles where you're sort of churning through that in the initial stages. So I think for senior leaders, while having a level of obviously an understanding and skills in those areas, I think we're really going to be challenged, particularly for those of us in particular age brackets, around reskilling and relearning and learning new ways of doing things, particularly with technology advancing the way it is, because I think that will have some really significant impacts in HR and how we go about our work. Regardless, all of that really contributes to that strategic workforce planning, because if you don't have a really good understanding of those things, you can't really, understand the workforce, manage it effectively, and then plan for it. So, inevitably, when all of those changes are coming very soon, I think, in particular in terms of the impact of technology, I think there's going to be a big change management component, because it's not just about HR teams adapting, it's also about the adoption of that technology in the business as well. So I think, apart from all of those things, I think any senior leader needs really strong business acumen, and that financial fluency as well becomes more critical to make those business cases you need for the investment in the sector.
Correct. Agreed. And Samantha, in terms of the New Zealand market?
Very, very similar. So that communication piece is key, because you're dealing with people from all over, whether it's key managers within the business, whether it's clients, whether it's a new workforce. You're dealing with people from all over in different cultures, different backgrounds. So that is a huge piece of it. We do have a lot of data that we do work with as well. So just being that sort of tech savvy, and obviously very similar to what Adeline was saying about the age brackets, is upskilling people that have been in the company for a while. And we're used to a certain way of doing things, and now we're changing or upgrading our softwares and things like that. So I myself, I'm very sort of resistant to change, and it's been, I have to, lead by example in this instance. So I've got to be the one driving it and saying it's not all bad. And I have embraced it, I have to say. The way that AI has affected our business has been very positive in terms of how we deal with our remote workers and things like that, and how we use technology, and trying to aim to go completely paperless and things like that. And then there's still that human aspect as well. So obviously for sort of the key sort of senior HR space, we still do, and we're very sort of union driven in this industry as well. So you're still having those key conversations with relevant parties, you're doing the negotiations, you're doing all the ER side of it as well. So you still need to have those relevant skill set. But yeah, it's, I guess, the more emphasis on that tech savvy and being able to adapt quite fluidly to the new and ever-changing technology space is quite key.
Absolutely. And look, that's a great segue into the next question, which is, with 54% of HR teams investing in AI, particularly for talent acquisition and learning, how is your team approaching technology integration? What impact have you seen so far? Adeline?
Look, the number one thing, as we've been discussing, is really a lot of us really needing to upskill and understand what's possible out there. As our organizational systems mature, we've still got to stay at the forefront of what is possible and what technology we could use. So for our team, we're really focusing at the moment on upskilling ourselves, understanding that a lot better, because I think there's so many potential improvements for efficiencies in recruitment processes, candidates' experiences, improved decision making through predictive analytics, hopefully in time, personalized L&D, as I mentioned, earlier as well, and that real ability to automate that routine activity. So I think there's a real opportunity there for HR to leverage and take the lead on this. We know, so I guess some of the things that we're seeing in the sector, is with talent acquisition, resume screening and candidate matching, being AI driven, AI chatbots and virtual assistants, handling things like interview scheduling and real-time application updates, those kinds of things. And, there's also the live metrics that can be provided. So there's a lot happening there, and certainly in the L&D space as well. I think we're seeing a lot more personalized solution and moving, really into that almost like a learning experience platform, whereas I think a lot of the time at the moment we're talking about, learning management systems, and I think those need to evolve so that we can actually provide people with those customized experiences online when it comes to learning and development. But with AI, as you know, it comes lots of risks, as well. It's extremely exciting, but I think that awareness and however it's managed, but things you need to think about, things like bias mitigation, particularly in recruitment, looking at data privacy, looking at how we change manage through those evolutions as well, becomes really, really critical.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that. Samantha, from a New Zealand perspective, has it impacted you so far?
Yeah, we are utilising as much as we can, sort of that whole, work smarter, not harder kind of mentality, and really embracing it and upgrading our current softwares or programs that we use to make things a bit more easier from a recruitment point of view, whether that is doing things like pre-screening candidates prior to when we actually do speak to them, and just kind of sort of sifting through and seeing what the skills are that the candidates have that we can utilise in our business. And then also things just like pre-employment checks and all that kind of thing, how we can streamline it, make it a lot more user-friendly for both us and for the candidate experience as well. And then we utilise chatbots a lot, as most businesses do. Again, it's a lot of sort of those learning curves, and they're not going to get it right, and sometimes people do want to speak to a human, which is available as well, but it does make things a lot easier on our call queues and things like that. And then we also use it for our rostering and our scheduling for our remote workforce as well. Like we really rely on it for updating their sick leave or their availability and things like that. So it's just automatically come through to the system. So when our contact centre staff are speaking with clients and support workers, they've got it all there ready to go, and it's updated in real time, which makes a huge difference. And it just kind of removes that wait time of having to call around several different people to try and get an update on things.
Absolutely. So if we say looking ahead at 2030, and that gives me shivers, beyond AI, what trends do you expect will redefine the HR landscape? Adeline?
Look, I think that move towards a skills-based organisations is going to be really key, and that shift away from those traditional qualifications where possible, to just enable more talent pools to work across businesses. But I think also we're probably looking at that remote work will become, I guess, more prevalent. So there might be more focus on sort of that borderless hiring, more global talent pools. But, for that to happen, we really need new compliance frameworks, new engagement strategies. And I think that over time, HR will need to tap into that global talent marketplace and those gig platforms to build those sorts of teams that we need for the future. So it may end up being that HR is not really looking after just, I guess, sometimes we oversee that, we have that traditional idea of managing employees, to really more of a coordination role across a network of freelancers, contracts, AI agents, whatever it might be. But I do think, with technology, and I know you said beyond technology, but I think technology is going to have such a profound effect on the way we do our business. HR will really need to evolve into more of a data-driven and agile function, really fostering and focusing on that human potential in that tech-augmented kind of workplace. And I think that's going to be a really big shift for us, and I think it'll happen sooner rather than later.
Agreed. Samantha, over to you.
Yeah, for us, we are putting that focus on our people and the employee journey. So we will, for us personally, I think we'll be doing a lot of investing and upskilling, providing what we can to help upskill our workforce, and putting it all back into them. We want to keep our people as long as we can, but also we want it to be beneficial for them as well. What are they getting out of it? Why are they here? It's all about the why and the people. But yeah, technology will definitely play a part in that, especially the pace that it does move. And we also do want to keep the talent as much as we can in New Zealand. Like everyone wants to, go explore the big wide world and go experience what life is like over there, which is great, do it. But how do we also encourage them to come home and come back to New Zealand and be part of that workforce?
Absolutely. Well, look, I want to say a very big thank you to both of you for your time and for giving us such incredible insights into the various markets. If anyone is watching today and wants to reach out or get in touch with either Adeline from Cancer Council Queensland or Samantha from New Zealand Health Group, you can visit the comments below for more information. So thank you once again, both of you, for joining us and sharing your valuable insights and experience with us. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Just a reminder that all the insights shared today are based off of our 2025 Employment and Salary Trends Report. If you would like a deeper dive into salaries, benefits, and workplace trends across your market, you can request a copy by scanning the QR code on the screen now or clicking in the links below. Lastly, whether you're looking to grow your career or build your team with the right talent, the People-to-People Group can help you. As an award-winning recruitment agency, we operate across Australia and the United Kingdom with specialist teams in every major market. Across the ditch in New Zealand, we proudly recruited for over 23 years through Frog Recruitment with offices in both Auckland and Wellington. And in South Australia, Edge Recruitment are Adelaide's leading specialists in the property, real estate and general administration roles. Contact details are on the screen below or now in the comments list. That's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us for our special HR market update. We look forward to seeing you next time.